There we go. Look, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever and whatever the time is. And welcome. Like I said a few minutes ago, hi June. Like I said a few minutes ago, it is just like an informal chat, just to kind of speak about experiences that I've had with animals in the spirit world and experiences through mediumship that I've had with animals. And kind of part of it is because lots of us can we can have wonderful relationships with animals, and when that time comes that we lose them, it's incredibly distressing. And I have no doubt whatsoever that the amount of tears that I've cried for my dogs has far outweighed any I've cried for a human. Maybe that says something about me, I don't know, but that is a fact. That's how I feel about it. And the relationship that we have with them and the choices that they make are as real as the connections that you and I would have with each other and the decisions that we would make. And so I want you to just let's have a show of hands, those that have maybe lost an animal, dog, cat, or whatever it may be, and have felt that in some way they've returned to you, or that they tried to show themselves back to you. Yeah, so most people. There's one of the very first times. So obviously you probably guessed that I do mediumship. So I do trance mediumship and teach it, but I also do regular mediumistic readings. So we connect to loved ones, etc. Now, when long time ago, when I was developing, I was attending like one of these one-day workshops, and the tutor, he said, Andy, I want you to stand up and like face the audience, and there weren't many people, and I want you to connect to someone in spirit. And I thought, oh, crikey, I don't even know if I can do it. How does that happen? It's like some sort of alchemy. I don't know how this happens. And so I said, okay. So I kind of stand there and I kind of say, all right, let's have someone. Let's have someone to communicate. And if you're clairvoyant, you'll understand, obviously. And I don't mean to teach anyone to suck eggs, but I'm just assuming some people might watch this and not know what I'm talking about. But obviously, if you're clairvoyant, we're seeing images with our spirit eyes, aren't we? So it's like there's a screen in our mind, and the spirit world can kind of send a picture to that screen within your mind, and that is the way that I perceive clairvoyance. So on this screen in my mind, you see little snapshots, little moments, like half a second, and you think, oh, what was that? And I became aware of this brown and white dog. And I was thinking, oh, well, that isn't a man or a woman. Not sure where this is going. So I kind of like wait a little bit and I'm wondering what else will come in. And I see like a place name. So let's say it said something like Newport. And it would flash up in my mind like an image, like seeing a road sign. And then this other place name would come up, and then another one. And then I'd see this vista of some like pine trees. And then there was a field, and then there was like a proper traditional stone wall that you would have in like Yorkshire or Wales, somewhere like that, or Ireland. And of course, this was confusing me because I wasn't seeing any man or woman. And I was kind of thinking, I don't know what's happening, what's going on. Then as the communication went on and I'm starting to perceive more stuff, the lady, sorry, the gentleman that was taking the session, he said, what else are you getting? What are you feeling? And I was thinking, in my head, I was thinking, I'm just seeing like an image of a brown and white dog or a black and white dog. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just not sure what's happening. Anyway, I got given this name, Lawrence. I was thinking, Lawrence, okay. I think I might have a gentleman called Lawrence. Anyway, so we were kind of trying to round it up and kind of say, look, what is it you think you've got? And the woman said to me, she said, just say it. Because she knew. I didn't know she knew, but she knew. She said, just say it. I said, if I didn't know better, I said, I'd say that this communicator was a dog. She started clapping. And I was like, right, it was a dog then? She said it was a dog. She said, you said it was a black and white dog. She said, but it wasn't. It was a brown and white dog. She said, but all the place names you said were places that we used to visit. And she says, the images that you were describing, that you were seeing through this clairvoyance, she said, are images that I recall, I remember. And she said, all those places are places that me and my Malamutes dogs, which are like a husky on steroids, many of you will know them. She said, these are places that we used to race. She said, because Lawrence was actually called Larushka. And Lawrence was the very first Malamute dog that I ever had that started off my journey of breeding Malamute dogs. And she said, what we would do with him and the others in the pack as it developed, we would take him to places in the forests. She said, where there would be these courses. And she said, we as teams of people would meet up, we would harness the Malamutes up, and we would have three-wheeled tricycles, obviously. We would have these tricycles that they would be harnessed to, and the dogs would pull them through the forests, and we would have races because, of course, in Britain, invariably, we never have snow. And she said, you gave me the English name, the English translation for his Russian name, because he was called Larushka. And she said, and that means Lawrence in Russian. And that blew me away. I was just like, I didn't know that was a thing. I said, so I didn't have a man or a woman, I had a dog. Yes. And you understood what I said? Yes. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure. So that was a dog? Yes. That was the very first time. It was one of the very first times I ever had any communication. But I had not contemplated for the possibility that a dog could have a consciousness conversation with my mind. I mean, that's a strange place to get into for anyone. But the fact that this dog could clearly give me images and places and all of these things that this lady then knew, that blew my mind. I just didn't realize it was possible. And so it really changed my outlook of who can be a spirit communicator. Do animals have that ability to be conscious of me? Do they have ability to communicate? And if so, how does that even work? And as time has gone on, and you guys will probably know this, when the spirit world wants to communicate, they don't have a physical voice anymore. But what they do have is a memory. And when they have eyes, they can perceive an image. And when they have that within their consciousness as a memory, they can then send that from themselves to me, for me to be able to perceive it if I'm being aware. And so if I'm not being aware, if I'm just washing the dishes or something, or watching telly, my mind is focused on something else, and I don't realize that there's a communication going on. But the fact is, I'd stood at the front and I'd said to the spirit world, I thought it was going to be a man or a woman. But of course, they had other ideas. And so as I became aware of this image, followed by another image, and then another and another, when we put them all together, it's like seeing a storybook unfold. And suddenly I became aware of these different things happening. And when the recipient, the lady, when she started to realize what was happening, and she knew a long time before I did, the penny suddenly dropped and she knew where the conversation was going. But it took a while for the penny to drop for me and to realize that actually I'd communicated with a soul, because a dog, a cat, whatever, is a soul, isn't it? It's conscious, it's loved. Someone loved it and it loved someone. And its life continues. So that was one of the most beautiful opportunities for me to be aware through mediumship of that consciousness. And when we miss the really special parts of our life, which is our dogs and our cats and whatever else, that you have that you think a lot of, it then gave me a degree of understanding at that time that when animals in my life came to pass, I would only lose them physically. And for me, that was a massive comfort. It still is. Don't get me wrong, it hurts deeply that we've got 2 dogs in spirit world. It really does. And I dare say some of you that have had more and more animals, you may have said goodbye to many. And don't get me wrong, the pain hasn't got easier, that I know. But the fact that I know that they will be there when I join them in the spirit world, that's a massive comfort, because I've only said goodbye for a certain amount of time. So, guys, talk to me. Has anyone got any experience that they want to share, and thoughts and questions? I want this to be about us all coming together and just sharing your thoughts. Who wants to
share anything? If you want some of my thoughts,
yeah.
Somebody else might like.
Come on, Martin. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I
have so many. It is difficult to know where to start, but I'll give you a quick one. When I was in Sidmouth some years back, I had a little sanctuary down on the bottom of 4th Street, and we used to work with all kinds of stuff and what have you. But I was doing the church service on the Sunday, and I'm up on the pulpit, and the lady that was chairperson, she was an old hand at this, and she was doing it a long time. And she said to me, "To see that old man in there that come in there now," she said, "you won't be able to go to him. Don't bother even trying, And I knew he was the first one I had to go to. You see? But she said he won't accept any one of his family. He's cut mediums to size here different times. So I stood up anyway, and the first thing I said, "Well, may I come there to you, sir?" says I, in my best Irish accent. And he didn't like the Irish either. So, and I said to him, and before he said no, I had to come in very quickly and say, "I've got your dog, the big black one," I said. "He's lying across your feet." Well, I never gave a reading as good as in my entire life. That dog was absolutely 100% spot on. Wow. He gave him a fantastic reading. He got up at the end of the service and he said, "Well, no," he said, "I will look at Irish," he said, "in a very different way from now on," he said. He said, "That was the best," he said, "I've ever seen." And it was his dog. He'd fallen out with his family. He disowned everyone around him, and he was a loner, but he wanted his dog. And he had a big black dog. I couldn't get the breed, but he was a very big black dog, like maybe an extra big sheepdog type.
Yeah.
You see, but he was lying across his feet the way he used to when he was alive.
Right.
And and it's like you just telling that story there. You see the moral of the story. We never forgot it. You see, but animals. I work with a cow, I work with a horse. They bring you some fantastic information. I've had cats come into a lady, 9 of them one day.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, the information they gave me, and I know they'd gone through a bad time, and I explained to her about a certain incident that happened. She said, "I bloody knew," she said, you know that. She said, "You're being Irish." It was to do with the fairy folk and what have you.
Yeah.
He couldn't figure it out, and it was to bring him upliftment because they were in a bad place at the time. And the cats brought the information to me.
Absolutely.
Cats.
And the thing is as well then, Martin, that you think to yourself, you could have gone with what that chairperson said and said, "Right, I know that I want to go to that gentleman, but I'm going to avoid him because it won't be easy." But something in your soul said to you, you recognize the need of that person, and you literally have to share what you get, because the lesson to me was you were going to have a spirit communicator, but I had already pre-decided that it was going to be a man or a woman, because I just assumed that that's what it would be. And I think that was reasonable because I was right at the start of my journey.
Yes.
But the fact that you were open and that the lady heard from the cats, that the gentleman heard from the dog, and there are many people, especially if you live on your own, where
Yes.
you could quite rightly say, do you know what? I love and want to spend more time with my cat, dog, guinea pig,
Yeah.
whatever, than
That's right.
anyone else,
Mhm.
because love is love.
That's
Whether
right. That's correct.
love shared between animals,
And you don't
humans,
get it any better than animals.
and you know, an animal has never had a crossword with anyone, has it?
No, and it is always very quick to forgive.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how stroppy or angry I've been, and if I've shouted at the dogs, because I do from time to time, because I'm
Yes.
human and I'm stupid. But
But,
when I
but
go to them, their tail is wagging before I even touch them.
yeah, well, they know because the universal mind is in play,
Yeah.
which is what they use.
Yes.
I never try to. I speak with my voice because they understand. Lie down now, or you know, whatever. But when I want to communicate with my dog, I communicate mind to mind.
Oh wow.
You know,
I've
it's
tried
the
that.
only
My
way. Or a
Labradors
horse,
ignore me.
I can calm a horse aside in the field that's galloping around going mad, and I
Really?
can walk into that field and I can work with that horse, and just by and I trot around the field, and I can communicate with that horse, and in the finish up, that horse will actually come to me.
That's beautiful.
It's a gift in itself. But let me explain a little bit, Joe. I'm
Yeah.
dyslexic. I went to school for the 5 years I went to school for in national school. I scammed 2.5 years of it. So I learned absolutely nothing. I left home not able to write home to my mother.
Okay.
I taught myself in my 40s when I had my own children put to school. My wife gave me 3 beautiful children, and then she left me. And I'm delighted for her because she did me the best favor anyone could ever do anyone. I
Okay.
enjoyed it. I took a job as a caretaker. I was down the mines. I took a job as a caretaker, and for a fraction of the money I was getting, but I enjoyed every day of it.
Oh wow.
For 22 years, I done that. But Spirit came to me and I said to me, if you'll do the work, we promise that we'll meet you every step of the way. And when you'll call for help, it'll be there. I wouldn't go walk away from that gentleman that day because I'd let down Spirit. I'd let myself down because they promised me, I promised them. I wasn't walking away.
That's wonderful though, isn't it? And isn't it beautiful that even despite someone maybe saying to you, this is what you should do, you still stuck with what you felt was right. And
Absolutely.
you're guided by your intuition and your sense of this
Absolutely.
is what I need to do. So you move out of your head and into your intuition,
Yes,
which is
absolutely.
what will guide you.
And that's me. And my mother used to say to me when I was young, Murt used to call me. Murt, she'd say, angels, fools rushing where angels fear to tread. But
Yeah.
I might be rushing in my 2 big feet, but I always got where I was going.
Yeah, absolutely. You probably learned something along the way, but the point is you kind of acting in what you feel is right, and
Yeah.
you're being authentic, aren't you?
You know,
I think that's a
but
beautiful story.
all
Beautiful.
my experiences are from Spirit, you see.
Yeah.
So I've never been taught anything, including mediumship. I learned a little bit about communicating with people because I was able to hear him, you see, in my ear. We could talk the same as I'm talking to you. And then things went a bit upside down and I got carried away and I went down to the bottle and I smoked and I don't know all the things everybody else does. And 7 or 8 years down the line, I thought to myself, Jesus, my children aren't going to be, going to need me. And I said, well, I'm going to be there for my kids. So I gave up the drink. And it wasn't easy, but I gave up the drink. I gave up the smoke as well. and I enjoyed every day since. Now, that's a long time ago. I'm only a garçon yet now, but even so, it's a long time ago.
Well
But,
done.
all life, my whole journey, it's been absolutely outstanding. You couldn't fault it. This is my 7th house, and I have a lovely sanctuary I built here, all with my own hands.
I think that sounds wonderful, Martin. I'd love to hear another sort of recollection from you later. So please do bear that in mind. Has anyone else got another kind of point that you want to make, or just share an experience, spirit and animals?
I'll share one, Andrew.
Yeah, and then June. Yeah, absolutely. I'd
Okay.
love to.
Okay, a couple of years ago, Amy and I were at a type of mediumship, an evidential mediumship retreat in Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
And I think this was the last day, and there was probably about a dozen of us mediums there, everybody giving, the group reading.
Yeah.
And near the end of the reading, there is a woman got up and started talking, but unlike everybody else, she was talking about a small white dog that's running around here with us. And, of course, everybody's thinking, okay, a small white dog. Neither Amy or I had ever owned a small white dog. However, at the time, we were dog groomers. So we didn't think too much of it at the beginning, but when she started describing this dog and how this dog was appreciative of how it was treated, and that it was happy that, whoever was so kind to it. And then I don't know, it's probably Amy that figured it out, but it was one of the dogs that we had actually groomed a couple of times that had come through to us just to thank us for being so kind to it. Because we did kind of look at this dog as being special, just in the sense that it was very small and it had a type of mouth, or well, if you want to call it, its tongue kind of stuck out and it was a little bit disfigured. Yeah, and it was old, but we just loved the little thing, the little guy, and we were good to it. We loved it. Matter of fact, it was in December of, well, I can't, a year, well, it would have been the year before that, that before he passed away, we actually took a nice Christmas picture of him in a little setup. We took it and sent it to the owner. And I mean, she just loved that. And we didn't do that for every dog, but we did it for him because we both.
Every time we groomed him, you'd think, oh, this could be the last time because he was old and he's pretty frail. And so it was Christmas. So we just took the little Christmas photos, And then when he was showing up, the medium, she said, I kind of asked him, stop in front of who your person is, but he just kept circling and finally she said, well, probably because he doesn't actually belong to any of us, but I think he finally stopped in front of Terry.
No.
So it was really cool.
But I mean, and it just amazed us that a dog that didn't even belong to us appreciated the kindness and the love and that we showed towards him. It was amazing.
Isn't it testament to why you kind of like my mother, she says to me, well, she doesn't say it anymore, but when we first had dogs, she'd say, Andrew, you shouldn't let that dog on your sofa. Dog should be on the floor. Dog should be this, that, and the other. And I go, Mother, dogs are family. If they want to sit on the sofa, they sit on the sofa. End of story. I wouldn't let them on there, she'd say to me. And I said, well, this is my house, my rules. And they go on. So, but the point being, you treat them with love and with kindness. And when we talk about raising our vibration, if you're doing mediumship groups, often people will say you need to raise your vibration. So in my mind, that means become like more spiritual. So you're kind of just becoming a better person. So it's like growth of the soul. And to be honest, I think the easiest way for me to raise my vibration is to spend as much time as possible with animals, because animals were the ones that taught me not to be such a selfish git. They were the ones that taught me to love more unconditionally and to not think of myself before I thought of someone else. And so animals have been the best teacher that have ever been in my life. And that's not because I'm ignorant or stupid, but it's because they rely on you completely, and yet they give everything to you. They never have a cross word. They never say anything. They never go off in a huff. They never do anything detrimentally. Unless, unless they're really in pain. And if they bit you, there's probably a good reason for it. But that's never happened for me. But
my dogs went off in a huff.
Yeah, but Kev, come on. What did you do wrong?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, nothing really. She
Are you
just
sure?
throw tantrums.
Your dog threw tantrums.
Yeah.
Forget what I
Yeah.
just said. Kev, tell me about your tantrum dog.
No, well, it's one of those stories
Thanks,
in that
Kevin.
where, when we got married, we was able to move into the country. A beautiful, we managed to buy a beautiful little two bedroom bungalow, large garden, etc., etc. You know,
Yeah.
and it was in a lovely little village. And anyway, so we've got married, and after a while, we decided to try for children, and nothing happened to start with. So the doctor said, "Well, go out and get yourself a dog. You know, take your mind off it." You see, well, okay, all right. That I didn't need much persuading. So we went to a rescue, and my wife at the time there, she wanted a puppy. You see, but I just wanted a dog. I couldn't care what it was really. And so as we was walking down through the cages, and it's one of the if you're an animal lover, one of the hardest places to go is to a kennels or to a cattery or you know, a place like that. Because there's all these these eyes looking at you. Take me home, take me home, you know. And, yeah, I'll take them all. Come on.
Oh,
But there was one in particular, and this is what I love about it. This dog chose me.
right.
And when I walked up to the cage, she was led on the floor, and she put her paw under the cage and went like this, as if she was trying to grab over me.
Oh.
Wow.
So that's it. Yeah. So I said to the I said, "This one." And she said, "But it says no cats." And her parents had cats and dogs, you know, and stuff. And I said, "Yeah, but look, you know," I said, "No, that's," and she said, "Well, no cats." And I thought, well, one way or another, she's coming home with me. So we had a look, and there was no puppies or anything like that, you see. So we've come up, and she was a Collie Cross Lab, and she just had this face, and then and I just melted, you know.
Yeah.
That's the dog. So I said to the lady, I said, "Can we have a look at this lovely girl here?" So we took her outside, and then just as we've come outside, the lady that walks the animal, she came up the path, and the dog stood up and was doing this on her hind legs, you know, and that. And I said, "I don't care what you say, Val, she's mine." And yeah, and we took her home, and that was it. And so on the place come and vet you first, you know, to make sure that you're okay. I mean, God, just, you know, and it was beautiful. It was like 20 feet, and I was in the country, you know, in the fields. And anyway, so they brought the dog along, and they said, "We advise that you keep her on a lead for a week." You see, well, I'm not really. If I like to see a dog off the lead.
Oh no.
Okay, so
Right.
I've said to Val, I said, "Come on," I said, "Let's take her up the top of the hill, and we'll take her up the track, you know, over the field there." And we're walking up. She said, "Oh," and I said, "I'm going to let her off." He said, "No, don't do that." I said, "She ain't going nowhere." Anyway, she had this thing. She would look at you like that, and I'd go, "Don't you bloody dare!" She was gone.
Oh no.
So of course, you know, I think, "Oh God, that's it, she's gone." And then all of a sudden, she's come running come out of the woods with the waggiest tail, and I swear to God, she had a smile on her face, and she stank.
Oh no. She'd
She
found
found
fox
some
poo.
foxy poo,
Oh
and
no.
she had her head, and I had to walk her home because the missus wouldn't let her in the car. And she was just so chuffed, walking all the way down the hill, smelling of fox.
Oh no.
It was amazing. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, she was the best girl. Yeah, But yeah, a little mischief, mind. But yeah, she was
But
good.
look at the beautiful memories, and you light up when you speak about her.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, cool.
And
Yeah, no.
that's exactly why I think we should have, if circumstances allow, we should all have animals in our life, because I think they enhance our lives so much, and they do truly make a house a home.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So our house became a home when we got dogs,
yeah, yeah.
not when me and Lisa bought it. So, June, you had your hand up. You were going to share an experience, my love.
Yeah,
What
I
do you want to
was.
say? Thanks,
Um,
Kev.
My dear cat died just 2 weeks ago now on Monday,
Oh,
and I
June,
had to take her on her last journey.
I'm
But
sorry.
the very next day, I was sitting here, and I think I just dozed, and I could feel her kneading my tummy. You know
Mhm.
how cats do that.
Yeah,
And because I've got a bit of a tummy, she had plenty to knead. So I could feel her like this, and I woke myself up saying, "I'm sorry, sweetie, but I'm going to have to move you. You're hurting mummy." No, cat. So that, to me,
wonderful.
was her coming back to me and saying, "I'm okay, I'm still here." And then when it came to the Thursday, I belonged to a healing group, and we were giving healing, and I know she was here because she always used to sit right next to me. She had more of the sofa than me. It's quite ridiculous because there's loads of them up there, but all animals are there.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because she just gave everything and took nothing really. So yeah.
June, thank you for sharing that. I know it's painful because, of course, it's very recent.
Yeah.
But you know what? You epitomise. I've known you for quite a long time, June. And for those of you that don't know June, if there is someone whose heart is completely wide open, not only for animals, but for people as well, it's June. And she's a wonderful person to know.
Yeah, Junie
And
June.
a real credit to the spirit world and just to people in general. And while there's people like June, there's always hope. There is, because that's the type of person that she is. And I know you hate people saying lovely stuff about you, but you well deserve it. So it's tough. All right. So well done, June. That's a beautiful, beautiful story. Does anyone else have a story they want to share before I tell you another story?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on then, Caroline.
My dad had a Labrador. From I was about 10. So he passed away when I was about 18. But anyway, he went everywhere. He used to go down the vine with my dad growing, and he'd be up and down the paths while he was picking tomatoes, and he'd take him on the golf course. And of course, we go gophering, as we called it, finding golf balls. Sandy used to go and pinch their golf balls as they were playing and bring them back, and Dad would make me go and take them back. Once it was to the headmaster from my school.
Uh-oh.
But anyway, he used to come down the beach with me and my future husband. And when we were married, we'd take him. And we'd take a big bottle of water for the dog in his bowl, and we'd take some Heineken for us. He'd have the Heineken, we'd have the water.
How does that work? How does that work?
He used to drink the Heineken, he loved it. But the best bit was my dad was Salvationist, so he was total teetotaler.
He was teetotal, but your dog liked a bevy.
Yeah, and when I had a reading with what's her name? Elaine Thorpe and Jonathan, her spirit guide.
Yeah.
She's amazing. I've had a couple of readings with her. And Sandy came through. Wonderful. And I said, "Do you remember when we used to take you down the beach?" And he actually said, "Yes, I remember. And I remember the Heineken. I used to love it. And it used to make me tipsy."
Wow.
But he said, "I don't need it anymore, darling, but I'm always with you."
How wonderful is that?
Yeah.
How wonderful is that? Yeah.
got a room full of cats walking up and down, all different ones. Big ginger ones, which was my grandmother's, and my mother-in-law had one like that. I actually got Georgie through Spirit. Alan sent her to me, and she actually speaks to me. She'll do 1 blink for yes and 2 blinks for no.
Okay,
if I
so
ask
she's
her.
worked out of the way.
And she'll actually pick clothes for me. A few times I've been going out and I've said, "Oh, I don't know what to wear," and I've picked something out, and she's put her paw up and grabbed something else for me to wear.
Blimey.
So yeah, she's absolutely amazing.
So isn't it a comfort though? Do you find,
Yeah.
Caroline?
It is definitely.
Really is.
Yeah.
Really is a massive comfort. I think
Yeah.
that's wonderful, isn't it? And it just shows that intelligence, you know, for her to say, or for him to say through, you know, a guide that he had a drink. I mean, that is not something as a medium you would think of saying.
No.
I've got a dog that likes to have a drink of beer. You are not likely, I don't care who you are not likely to say that unless there really is the sense that, you know, this communicator, in which case Sandy, you know, wanted to say that. And by the way, we used to have a Labrador called Sandy. Yeah, the first dog, the one that broke my heart the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember. I remember. I was like, when you said the name Sandy, I was like, oh no. But there you go. It's a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
So I need to share with you an experience that we had. Now, for those of you that have kind of known me a little while, you know, most conversations were dominated by the name Oscar or Poppy. All right. So I always used to mention Oscar and Poppy. So Oscar was a black Labrador. He was a pedigree. He had hip dysplasia and he was a cantankerous old goat. And, but I was like his possession. So if me and Lisa were sat on the sofa, he would stand in front of Lisa, he would sit down and he would just stare at her and he wouldn't even blink. And he would be like, move. That's my dad. Move. And she would have to move. He would jump up on the sofa and he'd look up at me and he'd curl up against me. And Lisa would have to go and sit somewhere else. Anyway, so he did this for his whole 10.5 years, bless him. Now, he passed on the 19th of January 2019, so just over 4 years ago. And I saw him running up the road, clairvoyantly I saw him running up the road, or I thought I did, that afternoon. And obviously it was completely devastating. You know, that was the first time I had to, as an owner, to, you know, help him pass on. So anyway, on Good Friday, there was an event probably about 100 miles away called the Good Friday Rally. And it was where spiritualists come together. June knows of it. It was at Ware in Hertfordshire. And so spiritualists come together and there was a well-known medium was there and she was demonstrating and there was stalls and just people getting together to, you know, it was Good Friday. So on the way home, the phone rings. I'm in the car and it's my wife. And she says, oh, Joss, who is the breeder of one of our dogs, Leo. Anyway, so we got Leo. So Leo came to us. I need to kind of go back a little bit. In the August before Oscar passed in the January, I saw this old gentleman. It turns out he had Alzheimer's or dementia. And he would be shuffling down like a gravel lane. And I would see him struggling and we, you know, stopped to speak to him and said, look, would you like us? And there was this big Labrador, nearly 50 kilos he was. And a big Labrador. And we said, would you like us to walk him? Because we're walking Oscar and Poppy. You know, and he said, oh, yeah, that's very nice. So we would take Leo for a walk. Every day we'd go past and every day he'd come out the door and his tail would be wagging. He'd be so happy. And that was in the August. And then in the December, so not long before Christmas, the lady, his wife, also had dementia or Alzheimer's. And she said, would you take our dog? And I go, you know, like for a walk. She said, no, would you take him? Would you have him? And I said, well, if your daughter, who was the breeder, if she says it's okay, then yeah, I'll speak to my wife and I'm sure it'd be okay, because we didn't want to be taken advantage in any way, because they both had dementia to some degree. So we wanted their daughter, who did know us, you know, to make that decision kind of on their behalf. And anyway, no, she said, you know, we can't have Leo back because they had a male breeding Labrador that wouldn't tolerate other males. So they said they would have to like live separate lives in the same house, and it just wouldn't work. She said, but we can't think of anyone else that we would rather have Leo than you. And so Leo came to live with us just before Christmas. And then, of course, on the 19th of January, we had to say goodbye to Oscar, and there was no sign at the time that there was anything wrong with him. Anyway, so Lisa said to me, she said, you know, I swear that Oscar sent Leo to us, you know, or Spirit sent Leo to us in anticipation of knowing that Oscar would be passing, you know, like 6 weeks later or 4 weeks later. And so on the Good Friday, I was driving home, and Lisa rang me and she said, Joss, who was that elderly couple's daughter, that she's the breeder of Labradors. She said, Joss has rang me and she said that they've got a Labrador puppy and he's become re-available because they wouldn't sell him to a couple that had come to see him because they were very odd in their behavior. So she said, are we interested? And I says, well, let me get home and let's have a chat. So I'm driving home. Immediately my mind goes to, oh, I wonder what we call him. Let's think of dog names, not whether we're going to have the dog. I've already decided what we're going to call him. So I'm thinking of names. So I walked in the door and I said to Lisa, guess what I've been doing? And she said, what? I said, I've been thinking of names. She said, guess what I've been doing? And she held up her phone and she's been looking at dog names, blue names. So I said, you better ring Joss or send her a message and just say, look, can we come to see him tomorrow, Easter Saturday? No. Yeah, can we come and see him tomorrow, Easter Saturday? So we went and saw him, this little chocolate bundle of fluff, 5 weeks old he was, or whatever. And immediately I just a pile of goo. Yeah, that dog is not going anywhere. There is no way. I'm already completely in love. Now, Easter Monday, I ran a development circle. And there was an odd number. And I said to one of the ladies, I said, I want you to work with me. I said, I want you to connect to Spirit. I says, and bring forward a loved one for me, a Spirit link. Okay. She goes, she said, I've got your grandfather here. Okay, yeah, understand it. He's saying this. Yeah, understood it. He's saying they're sending him back to you. I'm like, right, sending who back? She said, wait a minute. She says, they're showing me a blonde Labrador. I go, no, don't understand that. Oscar was black. She said, no, wait a minute, it's changing colour. I said, is he changing colour to brown? She said, yes, he is. I said, okay. I said, what else? And she said, excuse me, a few more bits and pieces. But the gist of it was, there's this chocolate-coloured Labrador, and we hadn't told anyone in the world. Not friends, not family, not no one. That was as cast iron a secret as you are likely to be able to have. And of course, a couple of weeks later, Ted comes to live with us. And so Oscar had decided, and I spoke to, Joss, and I said to Joss, I said, when did you go and mate Ted's mum, who was called Tess? I said, when did you mate her? And she looked back and she said, January the 23rd. And I was like, literally 4 days after Tess being mated, Oscar had already made the decision to come back and to be cantankerous and to be as he is, but this time as a chocolate Labrador, and this time we call him Ted. And to this day, we have Ted, who's just over 4 now, and he sits in front of you and he's got slightly hunched back as he stares at you, and he does what Oscar does. He just goes, and Lisa has to move, and Ted jumps up. I said, "Do you want daddy cuddles?" Ted jumps up and he looks up at me, and he leans right up against me, and he leans across me, so that if one of the other dogs comes near me, he looks at them and he kind of he'll won't have a go at them, but he'll make sure that they know, this is my dad. I'm sitting here. You are not sitting here. And even if one of the other dogs are there first, they get up and they get on the floor, and Ted takes the place. Now, there is no doubt, so many times I'll speak to Lisa, she'll speak to me, and we'll just look at Ted and we'll go, that's just like Munch Bunch. We used to call him Munch Bunch, amongst many other names that we call our dogs that aren't their real name. And she said, who is that just like? And you see his behavior and so many things that he does. We know that Oscar used to do it. And so that he made that conscious decision. There was a dog deciding that he loved the life he had with us, that he wanted to return. And he isn't Oscar. But if we use the analogy and we think, how does this happen? If we use the analogy that I have an orange and it has 10 segments, and if we say a whole orange is the soul, that is the soul, this whole orange. But each one of those segments is a different personality. It is a different expression of that soul. So that soul has the name Oscar, but it also has the name Ted. And it may also have the name Florence, Bob, George, or Harry, whatever. And this may happen over the course of maybe, I don't know, 200 years, 300 years. So that soul has chosen to have at least two of its experiences of life with us. We're its guardian, not its owner. We're its guardian, or we're its pupil. They're there to teach us how to be better people. And I know without any doubt whatsoever, that is why he came to us, to teach me to be a better person. So that's one of the stories. Does anyone else have a story that they would like to share? Because I've got another one later. I might be coming back to you, Martin. But does anyone else have anything you want to share?
I got loads of stories, but then I'm old.
Sorry. Carol, did you have your hand up?
I'm really new at this, so please forgive me because I'm kind of new, but I'm learning how to communicate with animals. Dogs are really my passion, and I really want to be able to do dog animal communication. So I'm working very hard to try and do that. And I was speaking with Suzanne, who you don't know, apparently, and she said, Andrew said, this is what Andrew said. Yes, she said this to me yesterday. I don't have the visions that you have. I had it once and it's never come back. A dog in a green field with sprinklers running through with such joy and happiness. It was amazing. It only came to me one time, but it's just that these thoughts come to me. I don't know if it's spirit. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it is, and I get some good hits just on that. But she said, Andrew said, you said that that's the purest form of communication. And I was so grateful that she said that to me, because everyone's saying, oh, well, I smell this, or I see this, or I have this. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't have any of that. But I also lost my dog 3 weeks ago. I had to put him down and very painful and stuff. But I didn't really get a sign though until we left the veterinarian's office and there was a butterfly circling my car. And that's the only thing that I've gotten since he's passed. And I'm like, darn it. And I said to him before he left, you have to come back and let me know you're okay. All right. Come back as an orb. I don't know, anything, pick something.
Well, and it's very difficult for us because we're emotionally invested in them. Carol, it's hard sometimes to think to yourself, what's my imagination and what is really a sign from spirit? And just because I do this doesn't mean I find it really easy. I wish I did, because sometimes it can seem really hard and you kind of, sometimes you want to pull your hair out. I mean, if only it was that easy for me. But the fact, as far as I'm concerned, is that continuity of life, of that soul moving from Oscar to Ted, that for me is a fact. That for me is just something that will always happen. There is that constant connection that we have.
Beautiful.
And the point is, when we're thinking about what binds that animal to you, what was the connection? It was love. So while there is love from that dog to you and from you to that dog, nothing in this universe can change that or alter it. It is just permanent. It's eternal. There is nothing like a mother would love a child, and so on and so forth. That is what connects that dog to you. Now, because we may sometimes look for certain signs and say, oh, unless I see a feather, that isn't a sign. You know, it needs to be a feather for it to be a sign. But what if it was like June? What if it was just, I felt that cat's paws on my belly, prodding them down because the cat is kind of making themselves comfy? I know exactly that feeling. What if it is that smell? What if your dog had a certain smell? What if your dog maybe had a collar that rattled, and you're sitting there in the quiet one time and you hear that same familiar rattle of the bell on the collar or whatever it was, or their tag? What if it was just the knowing that at the corner of your eye, you saw that shape of your dog, or you just felt their presence? You felt a sense of love and a sense of connection. You know, the communication between spirit and mediums is complicated at the best of the times. And as much as we would love to have that magic button that we press where we just become this just all-seeing, all-knowing person, the fact is it don't happen. It doesn't. Sometimes we just pull our hair out and we think, oh, why me? Why did I get chosen to do this? Because it just seems like there's more hassle than it's worth. But having that willingness and doing things for the right reason, you're doing it because you love animals, that you have a connection to animals, to dogs, and you want to be of service, not only to the client, but also to the animal itself. So be patient, allow it to develop in the way that it needs to. And so you can say to the spirit world, I want you to assist me to be aware, using all of my senses, how animals may communicate with me. Now, for me, clairvoyance was not something, I spoke to Terry about this only this evening. Clairvoyance was really difficult for me in the start because I just didn't know when it was my imagination and when it was the spirit world. All right, but here's a tip for you. Top tip. And this was shared to me by Steve, Kev. So he said to me one time, I just said, I just think this is my imagination. He said, well, there's a good way of knowing whether it's you or whether it's spirit. So I said, right, tell me, and I'll make a mental note. When the spirit world shares an image with you, they do not use the same part of the brain as when your imagination creates the image. So if I said to all of you, close your eyes, and I want you to imagine, you know, one of those red double-decker buses they have in London, one of the tourist buses. If you closed your eyes and if you imagine that, if you even did that as an exercise now, where do you see it? Do you see it straight in front of you roughly? Do you see it off to the left, or do you see it off to the right? Show of hands if you see it to the left. Show of hands if you see it to the right. Show of hands if you see it straight in front. Okay.
It's moving.
Well, yeah, of course it does, Caroline. You've got a drunk bus driver. Right.
Yeah, but I'm actually sat on the bus looking forward.
You're sat on the bus looking forward. Of course you are, Kev. Kev's a tourist. He's on the bus.
Oh, you're not the drunk driver then?
No.
No, he might be the driver, but what he said is, because the spirit world use a different part of the brain, if it's a spirit-inspired image, we see it to the left or the right. When it's created by our own mind, we see it straight in front. They use a different part of the mind. The image comes from a different place. And that blew my mind, and that helped me so much.
That's amazing. Thank you.
because I knew I could then start to differentiate what is my imagination and what is actually coming from the spirit world. So if I said, I want a spirit communicator to show themselves to me, straight away, if I'm seeing now a gentleman wearing a bowler hat right in front of me, I know that I've created that myself. But if I said, I want there to be a spirit communicator right now to present themselves on one side, and now I see someone that was wheelchair bound on the right-hand side, all right? And I know even as I become aware of that image, then we start to see the oxygen cylinder, and we know that that person would have also taken oxygen because their breathing wouldn't have been good enough to support themselves without assistance. And maybe that might make sense to someone here. But the point is, I know that that image was shown to me on the right-hand side. And I know that as I saw the wheelchair and the person in it and the clear pipes and the gas bottle, I know that they would have had maybe a condition like emphysema, something that would have meant that they needed oxygen to breathe. As a matter of interest, does that make sense to anyone?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And Andrew, can I just ask one more
Yeah.
question?
So there's a few people that makes sense to already. Yeah. What's that, Carol?
When the information comes in, it comes down to the left, like on
Right.
this side. So,
Okay.
but I don't get images. So would that apply to thoughts as well? The right and the left?
Do you know what? I've never thought of it. I've never thought of that. What I will say is, if a thought is coming to you, you will have an instinctive understanding about whether you are consciously thinking the thought that's come to you, or whether the thought is coming to you and you just happen to be perceiving it. All right. So if I say to you, think about what you're going to have for tea tonight, for your evening meal, you will start to have ideas and see an image of food or see an image of what you think you might do. But if I'm just saying to you, just sit in the peace, sit in the quiet, and don't try to think of anything. And then as you're sitting there, you think to, or you just become aware of this image of, I don't know, fruit and vegetables. And you think to yourself, I wasn't thinking of that. Why is that coming in? And then it could be that then someone comes in later on in the afternoon and says, we need to go shopping. I'll see what we need. And they go in the fridge and decide that you need lots of fruit and vegetables because they've seen that you're empty. Now, that's a bit of a bizarre example, but the point is, you know when you're consciously thinking of stuff and then you see an image, and you know when you're not thinking of anything, but something comes in anyway. So experience is going to tell you when it's coming from your own mind and when it's coming from spirit and they're dropping it in. And I know I can't prove that to you. I can only use my experience about how I perceive it. All right.
What about with songs? I'll wake up with a song in my head, and I'll perhaps have an old record that I haven't heard for 50 years.
Yeah.
And I'll know it's spirit.
Right. So it could be the song was relevant to them. It could be that there are lyrics within the song that are relevant. And so like, let's say, for example, I think I had this actually a couple of weeks ago. There was a communication and I said to the person, do you understand why I keep getting given this song title? Mm-hmm. And she said, oh yeah, absolutely. She said it was that person's favorite song. So I hadn't asked for it, but I could hear the song being played in my head. And let's say it was something like Always on My Mind, which I think is Elvis, isn't it? So Always on My Mind. And then I could hear Always on My Mind. And then I'm just sitting there, oh, and Always on My Mind. And I'm thinking, hang on. So that came in when I wasn't asking for it, but I got it anyway. So that means it had to be coming from spirit.
I just want to say one other thing, because that song thing was so, the day I put George down, which was July 11th, all I heard was God be with him on that midnight train to Georgia.
What a lovely song.
That was a song from him.
It was going, this was before we went to the vet. Like that day was going over and over and over, and God be with him on that midnight train. And oh yeah, just never left me the whole day. Amazing.
Right. So again, you know, the spirit world are looking, there's an intelligence in the spirit world. They don't just sit there with the, you know, fingers in their ears going la 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 la. There's an intelligence that they know what your needs are. All right. Just in the same way I say to a communicator or a client, I would like the communicator for this client that this client wants. All right. And I won't ask who they want, but I will then have to know that whoever they do want will come forward. And that's how it works. All right. Whether that always works like that, I don't know. But so far, it seems to be that whoever they wanted, whether I've asked for it consciously or not, they have got that person. So I do think there's an intelligence of spirit. Terry, thank you so much for your patience. What did you want to say, guys? Thank you.
Actually,
That's a
for
great
Amy.
question, Carol.
I had
Amy.
Yeah, I had a reading with Elaine Thorpe also just a week ago, and a dog came through as well. My family had a dog, and then my husband and I at the time got divorced, and the dog stayed with my husband. And when the dog was getting old and really ill, and she had a big growth on her side, and it's time to have her put to sleep, I actually told my husband, or ex-husband, I would take her because my one son wanted to spend some extra time with her or whatever. So anyway, I did take her to the vet when she was put to sleep, even though I hadn't been, living with her for a long time, but she was the family dog when our kids were little and stuff. And anyway, she showed up in that reading, small black lab. And, she said that she used to sleep with my son, and she's still with us, so that was, she hadn't lived with me for a number of years, but still had that connection to her.
But they do, don't they? And this is kind of, it's almost like animals are sent to us as angels with 4 legs, and they really do teach us the best of ourselves, and they do teach us to, it's almost like they know if you send a person to someone, you'll reject everything they say. When you send a dog, you kind of don't have your guard up. You just kind of accept them for what they are, and you put them first. And I think it encourages us to be more spiritually true to ourselves and authentic. In most cases, I know there's some people out there that don't treat animals the way that they should be, but they'll get what's coming to them. All right, there's another fact, which is great for them, but they will get what's coming to them. And so you can only sit back and think you had the opportunity to make a beautiful impression upon your dog, and you took it, and that dog did not forget it. So it's be careful what you're saying you do to your dog, because it will know, and the spirit world knows all. All right, so I'm very careful what I say to my dogs, because it will come back and bite me on the backside. So don't tell them secrets, because they'll know and they'll be able to tell people. So does anyone else have, Martin, did you want to share another one of your recollections, my friend?
One of several. While you were talking there, I remembered a chappie who gave me a reading down in Sidmouth. We used to do different things over the weekend, and we had this chappie down, and he sat down one day. He was a lovely, lovely man in bad health, and I can't remember his name, but I'm sure he's gone to spell it because he wasn't well at all. Quite an old man. And he told me a little story, he said. And he said to me, he said, I want to tell you this now, He said, a man found himself, he said, walking along a lane one day. And he was walking along, and there was his little dog. And he said, oh, Chip, how are you? And he was rubbing the dog and delighted to see the dog. And he said, oh, he said, but you died. And he said, oh, well, I wasn't well, so maybe I've died. Well, come on, he said, and we'll see what's at the end of this lane. So off he went. He came to this beautiful golden gate. And a chappie inside in a little hut, and his legs up, and he's reading a book, and there's a well there, and there's plenty vessels for water. And he said, excuse me there, sir, he said, do you mind if I have a drink of water? Oh, no, he said, come on in. What about my friend? He said, oh, no, he said, we don't let any animals in here. Oh, he said, where is this place? He said, this is heaven. Well, if it is, you can keep it, he said, because I'm going off without my dog. He said, I lost him once. He said, I'm not losing him again. So off he went. He said, come on, Chuck, and we'll go down the road. We'll surely find somewhere else. So off down the road he went. And he came to this little wooden gate thrown down. kind of half opened and half closed, and he fell inside, and he was leaning up against the tree, and he was whistling a little tune, and there's the well and plenty of places to drink water and everything else, and plenty of vessels. "Excuse me there, sir. Do you think I could have a drink of water?" the chap said. "Oh, by God," he said, "you can, and you're welcome." He said, "And what about my friend? He's very welcome in here," he said. He said, "Oh, then he got a bowl of water for his jug, and he got a drink of water for himself." And he turned to the chappie and he said, "Would you tell me," says he, "what's this place?" "Oh," he said, "this is heaven." He said, "The fellow up the road in the Golden Gate told me that," he said. "Oh, don't mind him," he said, "that's hell," he said, "he just pretends." "And why did you let him get away with it?" he said. "Oh," he said, it separates all them people that don't like their animals in your world."
Ah, brilliant. So the moral of the story, isn't it? It's about how you, whether you get into heaven or hell, is decided by how you treat the animals. I love it. That's a great one. That's a great one. I love that.
Many years ago, but I never forgot that gentleman. And
Absolutely.
I can't remember his name for the life of me.
Yeah, I've heard that one. I've heard that one before, and the moral of the story is a beautiful one.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
It is indeed. Jacqueline or Leslie, is there anything you wanted to share, ladies, or are you just happy listening? I want you to be included if you want to be.
I'm happy listening. Yeah, the beautiful stories and really heart-rending. All about, I'm in California, and all about beautiful fur babies are in Colorado, because I hop between the two states. My daughter lives there, all my family are there, and she has a mini farm, and yeah, there's just goats and lots of love. So my granddoggy's there. So yeah, but I do know about loss, and my story would be where for actual evidence was we had a cat, and I remember sitting in the nook. The cat had passed away, George, his name was, and my daughter was standing at the kitchen island in just ahead of the nook where I was sat, and in my peripheral I saw George running. He ran past me, and my daughter kind of looked down as if to say, "Well, what was that?" Because something brushed past her. So it all happened at the same time, the connection. And then I heard the little bell that was on his collar, which was actually in the kitchen window, because we hung his collar up in the kitchen window after he passed. And then he ran into the utility room, which is where he would be fed. We always fed him in there, and his litter tray was in there. And he ran in there. And my daughter said to me, "Well, I just felt a cat rush past me." And I said, "Yeah." And we had one other cat, and she was up in the bedroom. And I actually went into the utility room expecting to see him there having his food. It was just so real, but that was his sign. And he was a really kind of like he was such a character, and it was very typical that he would come back and visit us, because he was a very strong character too. But yes, I've had to say goodbye to our dog Ronnie, our Springer Spaniel, which was the children's pet growing up. You know, my daughter has a farm, so we've lost animals there. A horse that she had to have put down in the field where she was, and I had a lot of comfort and from my spirit guide, who it's just so incredible what goes on in the communication between animals, and that there was spirit there with him when the vet came, guardian angels, people that come from the realm, people that are experienced with horses from the spirit world. This is what I was told, and I have to believe what I'm told, and that they are there, and the communication is then goes out to the other horses, and they all know what was happening. They all understood what was happening, because there's this spiritual communication between spirit, the guides that have come forward, and the animals, because it's all telepathy.
Yeah, to explain the situation.
It was just incredible. It was incredible. And when Alfie, my daughter's horse, was taken away, all of the animals went to the fence, and they were all neighing as the vehicle took him away, and they were all saying goodbye. So that it just goes to show, and I was reassured because I was with my daughter as well, with giving her that comfort, because she was just obviously so distressed and upset. But I said to her, you know, everything is in hand, everything is, they've taken care of it. And Alfie understands, Alfie knows, and so do all of the animals. And they and little Charlie, the pony, he stood by Alfie for about 5 hours. I'm sorry, I know it's very sad, but it's just, he stood beside his body because he was grieving. It was just his it was just his way of letting go, his closure. It's like going to a funeral. And it's just, I think so many people underestimate the power of animals and the communication and their intelligence.
Yeah.
Because they've got this whole network going on with spirit, because they are psychic, they can see, they can, and that's why everything that you've talked about today, we've actually drawn from our pets, because they are angels in disguise. That's what they are here for. They are here for that comfort. Yeah. They have come back as teachers to teach us, and they're just so humble and forgiving. And you know, they don't hold grudges. You know, if you have to go out and you leave them and you forget to turn the lights on and you come back, they're jumping up at you and it's okay. You know, oh, you're in the dark. Wow. And you know, but they're forgiving. They don't care. You know, it doesn't matter. It's just love, 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 love. And that's when I go to my daughter's home in Colorado, and you know, she pulled up yesterday. She was in the car speaking to me. She said, everybody is at the gate. You know, the goats have come over, the chickens have come over, the dogs. It's just this whole vibration of love, and that's what animals are, each and every one of them. But the communication between spirit guides, people that come forward and take your pet to the spirit world, it's just phenomenal. And it's given me, I feel so blessed to have that awareness, that communication with spirit, to know that is truth. And that is a massive help. It doesn't take away the pain of loss, of course, because we're not physically there, but it's a great help. So you know, and the other thing I just want to say, and I can't shut me up now because you thought I was really quiet. But yesterday I was actually Googling, I was on my phone trying to find out about what side of the brain we use when it comes to communicating with spirit. And this morning, I'm in California, so I'm 8 hours behind you, but I only found this at the last minute. I just happened to go on Facebook and saw your post. And when you started speaking about that, I just thought, well, there's my lesson of the day. My guide said, listen to Andrew.
Many people say it. Many people might agree or disagree, but I think there's just some wonderful experiences that you've related to, and it really resonates with me, and I'm sure with many others.
Yeah.
It does blow my mind. I mean, there's another story I want to share with you. So in October last year, we went to myself and a lady, Jan, that I know, Jan Higgins. We went to teach a weekend workshop up north of England. And anyway, on the Sunday night, we were staying at one of the ladies was hosting us, and she said, I've got a spirit board, you know, or Ouija board, however you pronounce it. She said, would you, you know, do you want to use it? And Jan's very, very clued up, incredibly intuitive and spiritually minded, aware. And so we knew that because we were using it with the right intent, that inherently there is no danger to using one. It's if you put an idiot on the end of anything, potentially something stupid can happen. But we're all sensible. We're all doing things from the right point of view and with the right intention, so therefore it's safe. Anyway, we went through the process of working out what's yes, what's no, what's don't know, and we start to ask questions to get the communication going. I'll show you. Well, I'll tell you what was said. So obviously the glass is moving around, but there's four of us. The glass is moving from letter to letter. And so it types out hello. and then we say hello. Then it said, I jealous. It said JELUS, I jealous. Okay. Then it said joking, as in joking. Then it said greetings. And then we said, okay, hello. And then it said Andy, typed out Andy. Then it said, I love you. And it's like, okay. And then we said, is this Andy's guide? No. And we said, oh, right, okay. You're not a guide. Is it a loved one? No. Then it said KOSA space A, like Kosa. I said, Kosa? I don't have a guide that I know of called Kosa. So this was really getting confusing. Then he said, I deed, as in, instead of saying dead, it said I deed. It said I, then DEED instead of DEAD. And we said, okay, and we wrote down can't spell underneath. Then he typed out the word king, KING, then said LOVE, then left a space and then wrote X for a kiss. Anyway, so there it is. I mean, you can see it. That is literally Jan's writing. So that is everything that was said with the spirit board, the Ouija board. Hello, I jealous, greetings, Andy, I love you. Kosa, I deed, king, love, X. I went home and I said this to my wife. And I've never seen this photo before up until that moment.
Oh,
Who do you think that is?
that's
Oscar.
your dog, Oscar.
That's Oscar. That is Oscar. He's the cantankerous one. I never knew that there was a photo. Lisa had done that and she'd put this little emoji thing on it that said king. I didn't know we had that. That was the very first time. And that was after we'd used that spirit board. So the communicator, Oscar spelt his own name wrong. So he put Kosa. He got the letters wrong, but he was trying to say Oscar. So all the letters were right, but just in the wrong order. But he's a dog, for God's sake. But I never knew about that king thing. And so Oscar he was the only communicator that night. No one else came forward. So that dog, he loves his dad that much that he came through with the spirit board to communicate with me and to use something that was completely unique, because I never knew of that existence of that photo. I never knew it because I never took it. So that was a first. So how wonderful is that he and he's such a cantankerous bugger. I love that dog to bits, but he knew that he could communicate in that way. And then so in April this year, I was at a retreat teaching trance in Wales, and Jan was there, and Poppy was just 13 years old, and she was our black Labrador bitch. And anyway, and I remember saying to her on the Sunday morning when I left, I says, no, you don't go anywhere, as in don't pass. And she was all right. Health, she was a little bit frail, but she was all right. And then on the Tuesday, she collapsed. She had heart failure and she had to be put to sleep. And I was in Wales and I couldn't get back. And that was frigging heartbreaking. So that was incredibly tough. And I swear she left it until I was away, because had that happened before I went, I probably would have cancelled the retreat.
Yeah, she didn't want you there.
She didn't want me there. And on the afternoon, or was it the next afternoon, I stood there at the sink in the bathroom. I was kind of just looking in the mirror, and I could hear this tune going on in my head, and it was saying something along the lines of, I'll be back again in the summer. And I think, I'll be back again in the summer. What? I'll be back again in the summer? And I saw this image of this blonde Labrador. And I'm kind of thinking, be back again in the summer. What's going on there? And I said to Jan, now, if anyone knows Jan is spookily accurate when it comes to mediumship. So if Jan can't get you a decent spirit link, then no one can. So abandon the idea. Anyway, and I said to her, she was teaching, she was staying at our house for another workshop. And I said, I just feel, Poppy will be this blonde Labrador. She'll almost be like a platinum blonde. I said, that's how she's going to come back. I says, because I've seen her. I know what she's going to look like, and she's going to be at the end of the summer. And she said, no, you're right. She said she is. She's got quite a long, thin nose. She said she isn't like Leo. Leo's really chunky. He's got a head like a Rottweiler, even though he's a pure black lab. She's got a very long, thin nose. And she said, I agree with you. She said she is. So anyway, last week, Joss, this name Joss comes up again. So she's Leo's breeder. And she says, oh, she said, Margot and Bruno have been mated. She says, and they're going to be having pups, I think sometime in September, or is it early October? So again, end of summer. And I was like, you are kidding. She says, and she's also said that apparently the yellow gene, as in the yellow lab gene, is on both sides of that dog, as and Bruno carries it, and so does Margot. And so Lisa said to me, she said, and Joss keeps saying, you know, we're having pups in, you know, in however many weeks. Lisa said, if there is a blonde lab, and if it is a female, she will take that as a sign. But she said to me, you do realize, she said, if they have the dogs when they're due, that will be the end of summer. She says, and that's what you said the day after Poppy died, or the day after she passed. And if it happens, I'm not saying it will, because it's sod's law, I'll jinx it in some way. But if that happens, that will be the second time that's kind of happened, where they've almost like said, you know, this is what we're going to do. So that dog has made that conscious decision to, you know, to return in the way that they want. But one other thing I was going to say to you, on the Wednesday after Oscar passed on the Monday, I was woken up in the middle of the night. I was laying in bed, and I could hear this whispering downstairs. I could hear people talking. I was like, what the hell? I said, I'm going to hear someone talking. Anyway, I could hear it again. And in my mind, I still lay there in bed, and I was like, someone downstairs. And there's no one downstairs. There's only me and Lisa. You know, and the dogs don't talk English, not that I know of. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but I could hear them talking, these voices. Anyway, I then saw, again, this clairvoyant image. I saw an old-fashioned number plate. You know, black number plates with white writing, the metal ones that we used to have in England back in the 60s or 70s. It said R-O-O-O, Roo. So, Roo. I said to my dad, when I phoned him up later on that day, I said, what did Nana used to call me, as in his mum? Oh, he said she used to call you Andy Roo. You know, because instead of Andrew, she'd call you Andy Roo, and she'd abbreviate it to Roo. I said, right. He said, why? I said, well, they said, it's all right. He's safely arrived. So they told me on the Wednesday that my grandmother had then communicated to say that Oscar had safely arrived in spirit, and she let me know 2 days after his passing that he'd arrived safely. So I just happened to get woken up in the middle of the night, out of a sleep, to happen to see a spiritual image, to then verify it with my dad, for her to say, we've got him, it's okay, he's safe. So do you see the intelligence of spirit? And the one thing that binds my grandmother to me is love. I'm her grandson. Me to Oscar is love. Me to whoever else is love. So if you want to know how to be communicating more clearly, be more loving. It is the fundamental thing that glues all of us together. We're here together because we love animals. Or you just love to listen to me talk a lot. I'm assuming it's the animals. But the point is, this is why we're in this. And I know I've kind of talked about an hour and a half now. But so if there's anyone else that wants to share anything, please feel free to. Yeah, go on then, Caroline.
It's not so much about the dog. It's from my late husband. I do a lot of writing with him. Okay. And I actually got my angel board out. And I thought, well, I can't do it with a glass or what have you, because it's only me. So I used my pendulum. Oh, right. And he spelled out, I love you.
Yeah.
And then he said, I always kiss his picture before I go to bed or go out or anything. And I talk to him, and I do the human pendulum talking with him as well. Anyway, he said, kiss my picture. So I got up, I picked his picture up and I gave it a kiss. And he said, I sat down and I wrote, kiss picture, and went back to the board. It said, no, wrong one. So I thought, so I went and I picked up the picture that I had of him on it. Well, it was taken a couple of months before he passed. And I picked that one up and I kissed that. And I went, sit down, and I wrote kiss picture. And I did the thank you, he says, back.
Right. So again, it's using that ability for the pendulum to kind of keep that communication going.
Yeah.
Because obviously there was only you. But how beautiful is that though, Caroline? And it's reaffirming that love, that's that unbreakable bond. The physical bit, that's the bit that fails.
Yeah. Oh, we've been through so many lifetimes together. I've done past life regression a couple of times, but other times Al's actually taken me back overnight. We go flying off together. Sounds crazy, but it's true.
No, absolutely. That's the astral realm, isn't it?
And I was actually my great grandmother, and Al was my great grandfather.
How interesting. Do you know, here's a weird thing. I was going to say, I've got to be careful because I'm recording it. But I don't know why I think it. I just do. I just know in some way that it's right. Yeah. But I said to my dad one day, I said, it's weird. He said, it's because in some way I know that at one point in the past, I was his dad. I was his dad going back in time. I said, because there's just that sense that I am now living a life where I'm his son, but he has lived a life where he has been my son. I said, it's almost like I'm looking back at him now from a different perspective. And I know that's a bit, I can't prove that, but I just know instinctively that at some point we've also shared another life where the roles have been reversed. And I think spirit works in that way, that we can have multiple lives where we take on all of these different characters and have these different life experiences. And what it does is it does texture your soul, doesn't it? It gives you a new perspective. And if we were to live this exact same life, but in a different country, it would then change because of the cultural differences. And so even if all the experiences on some level were the same, you would then say, but due to the way that people live life here, my experience of life was different. And so therefore it's textured your soul. It's made you something more than you were. So, yeah, guys, I've massively enjoyed the opportunity to listen to your experiences and to share some of mine. And thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Animals are an incredibly important part of all of our lives. And so I would happily wax lyrical all day long. As June knows, Kev knows, and anyone else that knows me knows, we've got 3 dogs at the minute. But if there is a 4th one later in the year, you'll know why. And if it is a blonde Labrador, a female, then you can say, I knew this was going to happen. If it's not, then my radar was off, all right? Don't shoot me.
All right.
But yeah, what I'll do is I will post this at some point in the future. Yeah, June, what do you want to say, my love?
Could I please just say something to Carol, because I may never ever see you again.
Okay.
And ever since you've been speaking about your dog, I felt like this.
George.
Because you have this capability of working with the animals like that, your dog, I feel, will help you with your communication. So if you think of him and ask for his help, he will come with you. So, for example, when you're working with horses, as was spoken about earlier, there will be other animals around and he'll be able to calm that situation to enable you to work in the way that you need to work. I really feel that you have such an aptitude for this, so much more than you realize. And please go forward. Never think that you can't do it, because the capability is there. Those that wish to help you are also there. and you have many around you that will work in that way. I will just say to you, my dear, thank you so much for what you do, but also for what you will do. Bless you, dear. Bless you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, sorry. Leslie, you had your hand up, my love.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you about my Westie. I've always had German Shepherds. And for some reason, I decided that when I get older, I'm going to have a Westie because I can't walk a German Shepherd. And that was a joke in the family that I was going to do that. And suddenly this Westie came up that needed rescuing. So we went and got him. And he lived happily with my German Shepherd. He died of cancer. But after he'd gone, I still had my Shepherd, and we waited for quite a while. And I kept looking at adverts thinking, no, I want a dog because my other one misses the other Westie. No, I'm not going to get it. Then I changed my mind, said, right, I'm going to get a Westie. I've decided. So I started looking through the Westies, and up popped a white German Shepherd. And I thought, no, I'm going to get the white German Shepherd. So I phoned up, and yes, she's okay. She's a little bit timid to strangers, but yes, we've still got her, but we need her rehomed. I said, okay. So I travelled over. We went in, and she was hiding behind the settee. And it took me an hour to coax her from behind the settee. And my husband's going, no, no, too nervous, no. And so I just turned to him and said, if I don't take her, what's going to happen to her? I said, I know she needs help. So I took her home, and I had to keep hold of her in the Land Rover because she wanted to get out the window. We brought her in, and my other German Shepherd sort of sat back, and she went behind the settee, and my original one was waiting for her to come out. She finally come out, and they were best friends. But she has got so many traits of my Westie. It's unbelievable for a Shepherd to be like a Westie.
Right.
When I went and got my Westie, I just came straight from work, and I said, oh, sorry, can I use your loo? Goes to the loo, but the Westie showed me where the loo was and sat down in the toilet, and he did it all his life from the minute we got him. The Shepherd now does it. And you can imagine, we haven't got a big bathroom. We've got a big German Shepherd, walks into the bathroom and sits there. Right, I'm ready. You can have your wee, and I'll wait for you. And then we'll go out. And everything that the Westie does, this one does. So I believe that Bosun sent Luna to me.
I completely, that just feels so right, doesn't it? And thank you for sharing that. Eventually, I really wanted you to say, to sort of share your experience, because obviously it's important to you. And doesn't that helps? You don't realize though that, Leslie, when you share something like that, it then helps me to understand the implication of what I experienced, and for it to further validate what I experienced too. Because don't forget, I could have sat there thinking, but Andy, that could still be your mind. But what you've shared then also proves to me that ability to come back time and time again.
Yeah.
I just think that's wonderful. And until I was exploring mediumship, I didn't know that was possible. You know, everyone had just said to me, no such thing as a spirit world. When you're dead, you're dead. End of story. So why would I think about animals, coming back? That's why it took me 30 odd years to start to explore it, because I wasn't ready for it. So anyone else want to share?
I've got a quick story, if that's okay.
Please.
It's a funny one.
Good.
I was doing a church service.
Yeah.
And there was two ladies in the audience, and he had the faces of steel. And I thought, oh God, I may got to go to them. And he had their arms folded, and they were look, And so I started to describe this man, and I saw this one lady nudge the other one, and they're like chatting away. And I'm saying, well, I said, I do want to come here. And I said, this gentleman's saying it's your husband. Oh yeah. She said, oh yeah, right, yeah. And whatever I gave her, it was like, yeah, right, yeah. And then I said, but do you know what? There's a dog with him. completely different. This lady changed the moment we mentioned the dog, and her whole persona just mounted, and she become this loving, devoted lady to this dog. But the husband couldn't care. But the dog, oh yeah, I love the dog. Yeah, it was so funny. I was dying, and of course, the more she relaxed, the more the dog was messing about, and it kept bringing her bones and bringing her stuff, Yeah.
But isn't it wonderful though, Kev, that you kind of even though she was very defensive and very kind of like adamant almost to prove to you that no one can connect.
Yeah.
Bring that dog in, and then suddenly, because she knew that dog loved her unconditionally, how can you not react positively to that?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of working with animals. So
yeah.
This is why my dogs are on my lap, and why they sleep on the bed, and why I lay on the floor, and we have cuddles, and you kiss them, and then you talk like an idiot to them. This is just me. This is it. I haven't mentally, I haven't grown at all. I've probably actually regressed, but it's just the most wonderful experience.
Yeah,
And
very
so,
much.
I love it. I really, really enjoyed this chat, and I'm so pleased that some of you chose to join us and share your experiences. And it is a pleasure, and it does help you to kind of think about those that we miss, that shared part of our lives. But hopefully through these experiences, you really get it into your mind now, if it isn't already, that the separation is only physical, and that real proper spiritual love, that is an unbreakable bond like nothing else. And for me, that is what I'm holding on to. At some point, I'm going to get mobbed in the spirit world by lots of dogs, hopefully. Hopefully, I'll live a long age. There'll be lots of dogs, and I really will be in heaven. All right. Metaphorically and spiritually, I will be in heaven then. So, if you want to kind of follow my weirdness, you can find me on Facebook or on my website. Not that it matters, but sometimes I do ramble on about other subjects. So feel free to if you need to. But otherwise, thank you so much. And I will post this on my Facebook page and my Mediumship Facebook page. So if you want to watch it back or share it with friends that you think might enjoy it, then I'll put it on there. But for now, thank you to each and every one of you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Weird is good.
Thanks, Terry and Amy and Leslie and Caroline and Jacqueline and Martin and Carol and June and Kev and Jill. I will use.
Bye-bye, June.
Thank you.
Hello, my loves.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Lovely to meet you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.